Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
And I'm Shobi.
I've known Shobi for a little while now, and I've wanted to get you on the pod for a long time. You run a weekly Magic group around here in Portland that I go to every once in a while.
We love having you out, and your cubes and your humor and your wife and everything that you bring. Love having you every time you can make it out.
Thank you. And I wouldn't have anything to go out to if you hadn't started organizing this and kept organizing this. What were you saying you started? What year did you start this group?
As I recall, we started this group in 2008.
Wow. 2008.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when I think of how long I've been doing this almost every week.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like 2008. Where would that have been for Magic sets? So that's like the end of Lorwyn, the beginning of Alara.
Alara,
Yeah.
yeah. Alara was the first set that came out when the group was meeting. So it was the first one that we drafted as a group.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's cool that you still remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Any chance you remember what you liked drafting back in Alara?
Oh, I mean, I have this memory of I went to one of the Alara events and I drafted, I think, a Naya, and I had, what was it, Godsire?
Oh, okay.
And it was just, a really fun card to have in my deck. And I think I had an Ajani in that deck as well.
Wow. Godsire. That's the one that the giant Naya creature that also can tap to make more 8/8s.
Yeah, it just kind of like keeps making more of itself or something. Yeah.
We'll get into 8/8s later in the episode for our design challenge.
Oh boy, we will.
You run this every week. The kind of usual rotation that I see, it's pretty common to be doing power cubes. We have two people in the group that do power cubes. You also try to do at least one or two of each new set that comes out. You'll do a booster draft, stuff like that.
Yeah, we really enjoy variety, mostly draft. Every once in a while we do Commander as well, EDH really. But yeah, drafting is my love. And so that's definitely what I kind of promote the group to do most of the time.
Yeah. And then, the group, some weeks it's 4 people, some weeks it's 8 people. So it also kind of depends. The format depends on how many people are showing up this week.
Yeah, the lovely thing about limited is you can really make it be anything you want. Some nights when there's just 2 of us, we do mini masters. And I have a real soft spot in my heart for mini masters. It's just such a fun way to open a couple packs and play. And we actually had really a lot of fun using the Power Cube for mini masters recently. It made for some absolutely wacky games.
Okay, so mini masters for Power Cube. So your starting deck is probably maybe not super functional, or was it?
Well, that's the fun thing is when you just get 15 random cards from the Power Cube and then you mix in 2 of each basic land and that's your deck.
Yeah.
You end up getting a lot of weird synergies that you might not expect, especially because the way we play mini masters is if you would deck yourself, instead you shuffle in your graveyard to your library and then draw a card.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon to kind of fly through your deck in different circumstances, and then you're kind of repeating maybe a few key instants or sorceries that you have or a creature that got killed. We came up with so many crazy interactions out of that I had so much fun. I really want to do it again.
Yeah. If you're doing mini masters with just a couple people, I'm used to mini masters where it's a single elimination, big event. One person wins, one person loses. The winner gets the loser's cards.
Yeah.
And then you kind of build up. If you're playing with fewer people, how did you modify that?
Well, one of the ways we love to do mini masters, and it's something that I think we often do when we just have 2 people. What we do is we'll open one pack, make the deck, play a game, set that deck aside, open another pack, make a deck, play that game, set it aside, do it a third time. And then you get to make a constructed deck out of those 3 packs that you opened.
Oh.
Following the same 15 cards and 10 lands rule. And then you really get to make a pretty juiced little mini Masters deck, and that can be a lot of fun to have sort of a mini tournament that way.
You're going back down to 15 cards out of the 45, so you're building like the tightest little deck.
Yeah, you're building a super tight little mini Masters deck, and you still get the same rule of the
The
graveyard
shuffling.
shuffling back in, and that the number of times that is relevant in mini masters is so high because you go through 25 cards quick, especially if neither side gets a real early advantage, and you end up with like a 2-5 and a 4-4 on the board, and you're just like, well, okay, we've got to wait till we get all the way back through our decks to get to something relevant again. In the Power Cube, it ended up being a lot more interactive than I would have expected, but super powerful cards, so of course.
Yeah. I've heard a couple times. I've never been to one, but I've heard you guys have done a binder draft or did that in the past. What did that involve?
Oh, Binder Draft is one of those fun, wacky formats that we came up with one day that was so fun. I used to have a really extensive collection of Magic cards, and I would have them all sorted by binders. So what you would do is on a binder draft night, we'd roll for pick order, and everybody would go up to the sets of binders and get to choose a set of Magic from all the way back to the very beginning of Magic. And you would make a singleton 40 card deck out of that set. So you could have Shards of Alara versus Shadowmoor versus anything Scars of Mirrodin.
Yeah.
You just get these crazy different interactions, and because you're getting a singleton with all the rares in there, the decks were generally pretty juiced.
Yeah. The deck building time must be is that a solid hour on that one?
Yeah, it takes about the same amount of time that it would take to draft a whole set and deck build just to build those decks most of the time, because there is a lot to consider. But I will say, most of the time when we would do this, people would come in with something that they were kind of interested in doing. And usually that kind of helps say, oh, I really wanted to play cons and make an, Abzan deck.
Okay.
A lot of times people would kind of narrow it down quickly, and then the decks almost build themselves when you have a little narrow idea of what you want out of a set. You grab all the best rares and then kind of go through the commons and uncommons and see what fits. And yeah, I never had a huge like conundrum in building those decks once I narrowed in on something.
There are only so many Abzan rares. Yeah. Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. Like you're playing Siege Rhino, of course.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about our group as well is we're not a bunch of min-maxers, so we really just love playing the game of Magic. People are just like, this one sounds really fun. Just want to play that deck, and whether you win or lose, you're having fun having built a deck maybe that you always wanted to draft back in the day.
Yeah. It is a reasonably competitive group. Like you all know your stuff.
Oh yeah, we love playing Magic, and everybody
Yeah.
wants to win,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like it's the type of group that is so focused on winning that we're not there to just have fun building decks and slinging spells.
Yeah. You're gonna make the best, Abzan deck you can, but you're not necessarily like poring over the list for 20 minutes, doing internet research to find what the strongest binder is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although we have found that I remember when we used to allow beta as a binder, there was some pretty broken decks made, and we ended up having to say, okay, that's just a little too powerful. And one of the sets that you really wouldn't have expected to be really powerful was Alara Reborn, with all of its little like multicolored bonus cards that would give cards like power or +1/+1 equal to the number of colors, and gets +1/+1 and first strike if you have a multicolored permanent. And all of those worked really synergistically together when you could build like the perfect deck with them. And I remember just getting run over by that deck in Binder Draft a couple times.
Just like a whole slew of very powerful 2-drops.
Yeah, exactly. It was
Okay.
fast and it hit
Yeah.
hard.
Huh. That is cool. We maybe can get into some of that too when we talk a little bit about Cold Cube later.
Oh man, Cold Cube, what an experience that was. I loved it, and also it made my brain hurt.
Your group's not a stranger to things like adding in some plane chase. I've been wanting to do some Vanguard. That's a hunger that I haven't sated yet. Um,
Okay.
I'd bring in any kind of format.
Oh, I yes, I want to do Vanguard. I have all the Vanguard cards, and getting the group to want to do that can be a little difficult.
Yeah,
But you and I just need to make it happen now. I
yeah,
would
yeah.
love to do that again. I feel like it's been a decade since we've done a Vanguard night.
I think I have a fantasy of integrating it into some sort of like historical-ish Dominaria cube, where somehow the Vanguards are drafted or something like that. And so you're looking at all cards that have art from Vanguard, and you're playing with Vanguard, something like that.
Oh,
Um,
you're speaking my love language here. Let's make it happen.
yeah, I was brainstorming with Christopher, one of the members of the group, on the way back from the coast. How do we get some planes in there? I'm at this point kind of willing, if I need to, like just coming up with some cards to support a format. Like, do we need to have cards that like interact with Vanguard or interact with planes in some way to make some sort of cube? But yeah, maybe we'll do some brainstorming at the end to see where we want to take it.
Oh, yes.
Alrighty. So the other thing that I wanted to do and really put a lot of focus on is what it's like to not just play in a weekly group, but to say like, hey, we've got a weekly group. I can only make it every once in a while. Like for me, it can be kind of tough because I'm often editing this show on Mondays. What can we do instead where we set aside a whole bunch of time? Let's go on a little trip. Let's get an Airbnb or a house on the coast or something like that. And let's all just kind of like lock in for a while and just play a lot of Magic in a short amount of time. That's another thing that your group does. How did that start out, and is it in the same form now that it was then?
Definitely not in the same form, but I think it started about 10 years ago.
Mm,
We're all pretty good friends with each other at this point. We hang out every week together, which
yeah.
is quite a bit when you're an adult.
Hmm.
One summer, we just said, hey, let's all just go out to the coast and camp and have fun together. Honestly, that first year, it wasn't even about the magic. We
Mm.
just wanted to go out and go camping and have fun. And
Hmm.
so we all brought a bunch of tents. My aunt has a little piece of property out by seaside, and we just pitched tents and had food and drank and hung out and drove down to the beach a couple times. And I think we may have tried to play Magic once during that one,
Mm.
but it was just a very minor thing. It was all just about being social.
Hmm.
And then the next year, we decided to do it again. But then that year, we wanted to play more Magic, and
Hmm.
so it kind of crept up, and we said, "Oh yeah, let's try to draft a little bit." And then the year after that, some of us started having kids, and instead of going out to the coast, we did Magic Camp at my house, where we just had
Oh,
people
okay.
pitch tents in the backyard.
Okay.
And then because we were at the house, it was like, oh, well, we have all the magic stuff set up in here. So we started
Mm.
playing a lot of magic at that magic camp.
Mm.
And then shortly thereafter, we got the current place that we go to for magic camp. And it's just so well set up for everybody being in the same house and set up for magic that it just
Yeah.
became like an all weekend kind of drafting and commander experience.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first went, it was already in that final form. It was like, hey, show up and you can go down to the coast here and there, or, people make dinner and stuff like that. But it's basically just like magic event after magic event after magic event. And especially in the last couple of years, it's almost gotten optimized where we try to plan it out to make sure we can get in as much magic as we can.
Yeah, that's why I love Magic Camp nowadays is the winter Magic Camp that we just did. I think what did we do, like 9 or 10
Mm.
drafts in the
Mm.
essentially 48 hours that we were there.
Hmm.
To me, that's like my best life, to just sit there and draft and play Magic. And
Yeah.
I loved that. That was slightly too much for some of the people in the group. They were like, "Hey, can we have a couple hours off
Yeah.
every once in a
Yeah.
while to like
Yeah.
do anything but Magic?" But yeah, I think, God, what did we do? Was it 7 drafts this last weekend?
Yeah, I think let's see. One, two, I got the list here. Three, four, five, six, seven. Yeah, seven.
So it felt like a really nice balance. We went down to the beach and we played a little bit of beach games and
Hmm.
had some meals cooked. And there was time, some of us played a game of Slay the Spire, the board game version.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that was a lot of fun to do that as a variety.
Yeah, yeah,
But ultimately, it is totally focused around just having
yeah.
a bunch of people all locked in a house, drafting magic cards over and over and over again all weekend.
Yeah. It's not quite it doesn't have like a basement vibe, it doesn't feel like claustrophobic. Every time you're like, your opponent's taking their turn, you just like lift your head up and you just look out at a beautiful beach scene and some sunlight and waves and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
it's real, it's relaxing to be there, but also you get a lot of your hobby in all at the same time.
yeah, the setting really couldn't be better
Yeah.
for it. And
Yeah.
I'm so appreciative that we have that space to be able to play.
I think I also want to plug to people or emphasize that there's something kind of nice. Hey, go on a trip with your friends, like the first couple that you were talking about. Go on a trip with your friends and do something, that friends you made through magic. Go ahead and do stuff with that. But there's also something that I kind of appreciate about getting to know people through a shared hobby and being able to spend a lot of time with them, doing that hobby rather than sometimes when I've gone on like friend trips, it's like, well, what do you want to do today? I don't know, go into town. Okay, I guess that's okay. I was thinking of going to this place. All right. And it feels like a little kind of meandering, and you don't get to spend a lot of time with people. Here, we are spending all day Saturday with each other, basically. And you really get to know people and bond with people.
Yeah, having expectation and things set up where everybody knows exactly what they're getting into and what we're going to be
Yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah.
really just kind of makes that whole like adult friending interaction so
Yeah,
easy. I
yeah.
totally hear you on the traveling with people. Like energies can be really hard to mesh, but
Hmm.
when you're all focused in on a common objective, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Sometimes if you go on a big trip, hey, I'm tired today. Oh, okay, I guess I'll go without you. But here it's like sitting around a table. So everyone's like kind of in the same energy zone. You get plenty of sleep, but other than that, you're just sitting at a table or sitting in a chair.
Yeah,
It's pretty easy to do physically, I guess.
and people come and go. Like some
Yeah.
people come out for the whole entire weekend. Some people
Hmm.
just spend a single day or one
Yep.
night,
Yeah.
whatever they can fit into their schedule or whatever they have tolerance for. Like I
Yep.
know some people just don't have tolerance to sit around and draft 7 times in a weekend.
Oh, I could do 8 and be in you both.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, sometimes we add on an extra night. We make it
Yeah.
Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday, and Saturday
Yeah. Yeah.
nights, and I love it when I can do that. But schedule doesn't always allow.
Yeah. 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 I love it. So, what do you say we maybe kind of go through what we ended up playing this year at Magic Camp and maybe get some ideas going? How successful each of these different events are. What it goes into like planning some of this stuff.
Sure, that's wonderful.
So one thing we did this year that I didn't remember doing always in other ones was just drafting the new set a couple times. So Bloomborough came out and we drafted it. The first one that we did, the first draft we fired was Bloomborough.
Somebody had a couple boxes that they wanted to draft,
Yeah.
and so that's so much of how the group works.
Yeah.
It's we open it up to, hey, what does anybody want to nominate?
Hmm.
And, of course, power cubes always get nominated. The sticker cube gets nominated.
Hmm.
But somebody just said, hey, I have 2 boxes of Bloomborough and I'm going to bring it out.
It's also kind of nice. I was thinking like drafting the same set with people, the same people twice in like a short amount of time. Cause I think we got like more discussion going about the set and thinking about the set, our preferences for the colors or, what stuff we thought was strong or weak, what designs on the cards we thought were interesting or not quite as fun.
Yeah, back in the day, our Monday Night Magic group, we used to, every time a new set came out, we would draft it like 4 or 5 times together for
Hmm.
4 or 5 successive weeks. That was back in the day when Magic released 4 sets a year.
Yeah,
Those days are long gone,
yeah.
unfortunately. But yeah, it was great to get to do that. And you really got to know the set. And
Hmm.
you mentioned, know the people that you're drafting with and
Hmm.
kind of get a sense for, some people will commit to their colors and never change,
Mm.
and some people will adapt, and also just getting to know what's powerful in the set, and that can
Hmm.
help meter it when, somebody is wrecking with a certain color pair every single week, then,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, maybe that color pair needs to be split between two people.
I think my first draft, I was the red white. Like I had Mabel, who's like the protagonist mouse character, and all this stuff where you target your mice, kind of heroic valiant style, and do all that kind of stuff. And that was a pretty fun deck to play. Mabel herself gives you an equipment, so she makes it really easy to keep targeting your stuff.
Hmm.
I think the other card that jumped out for me there was Blacksmith Talent. I don't know if you got to see this card.
Oh, I got wrecked by that card so hard a couple times.
Yeah, it's kind of unassuming, or I've read equipment cards that are kind of like this before, and somehow this broke through where the talents are classes, so you have to kind of level them up. The first level gives you just a 1/1 equipment. Second level, you get a free equip every turn. So here you're not really in like a great spot, right? Like a 1/1 that you can move around each turn. But then the last mode, equipped creatures have double strike and haste. This one totally exceeded my expectations. Any creature you bring off the top or any creature on your battlefield can become a pretty potent threat.
It's brutally powerful.
Yeah, yeah. I thought I was playing like the fast deck against a control deck at one point, but it turns out I was the late game deck because I had this talent in play.
Yeah, yeah, that set is very fast, and
Yeah.
if you're not doing something on turn two, you're losing the game.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think it's a set about little guys, right? It's 10 different, tribes of little creatures. And I think that also sort of brought the power to those cheap creatures as well. So you can get rolled over if you're not setting up.
Exactly. And it was the first time I had laid eyes on the set
Yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah, yeah.
It's actually, I think, a much more complex set than you might think
Mm.
looking at it. Maybe it's much more than the sum of its pieces
Hmm. Hmm.
in what's going on. Anything with 10 color pairs that has such kind of
Yeah.
both a unique identity and also so much crossover in how they're trying to allow the tribes to work with other tribes. And then all of the cards that list, if you control one of these four different
Yeah.
creature types, and then every single one of those cards is different. So
Hmm. Hmm.
as you're
Hmm. Hmm.
playing, you're like, oh, wait, which set was this card? Which set was that card?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a much more complex game state to have to remember than I'm maybe used to out of a kind of a standard draft set.
Yeah, that's like a common thing that people have been bringing up online as well. Like an example might be the villages, which is the cycle of like these monocolor like value lands. So one of them is Lily Pad Village, tap to add a colorless, tap to add a blue, but only to cast a creature spell. And then all of them have like a third ability that lists a couple creature types. So in this case, it's blue tap, surveil 2, activate only if a bird, frog, otter, or rat enter the battlefield under your control this turn. So that's kind of an example of what you're talking about.
Exactly. That specific land I had that in one or two of my decks this weekend, and I kept being so frustrated that it didn't say mouse. I was like, come on, just I
Oh
had a
no.
mouse enter and I can't use this. And
Yeah.
so that was a little bit kind of feel bad to me.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe because I've done podcast episodes about this set now. I've kind of memorized what color pairs and what colors are what tribes, but that takes a long time to ramp up on. That's not your first or second or third draft where you know that list.
Yeah, it was a difficult set for me to draft,
Yeah.
and that's somebody who's been drafting for decades now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The next thing was this wasn't like a full group event. This was just something when we had some downtime. I think some people might have been at the beach. But I got to do a Supreme draft. Did you hear about this?
Oh, I heard it. I was on the other side of the room. I think I was playing Slay the Spire while
Oh,
you did
okay.
that,
Yeah.
but I was listening to it. It sounded crazy.
Yeah, so this was a Magic Online thing originally. In the Magic Online version, you're shown a pack of Vintage Cube, Power Cube, and then you pick two cards from it. And then in your second pack, you don't get past any cards, you just get a fresh pack again. So you get a whole new 18 cards that you can pick 2 cards out of. Then you get 18 new again, pick 2 cards. So you're always looking at a fresh, like a first pick out of a pack, and you do that, or maybe it's 16 cards. I might have the numbers a little bit off because you do 18 packs. That's what it was. So you end up with 36 cards or whatever that is, and then you make a draft out of that. Now you need a lot of packs for that if people are doing the math for that. But we had 2 power cubes on the premises. So I piled out 18 packs for myself, and Brandon, who I was playing with, he piled out 18 packs for himself, and we got to it. It was a good time.
How did those games end up? I didn't actually watch any of the games.
I won the first one, and then Brandon won the next 2. Both the decks we had a lot of overlap. We were both base blue.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Brandon was a little more on the kind of like instant win combo-y sort of stuff, depleting your whole library with like a decent sized storm, and then, Thassa's Oracle, something like that, or Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation. Is that what it's called? Demonic Consultation? The one where you name a card and you like rip through your library. Anyhow. Whereas I had kind of an artifact thing going on. So I was playing just like Mishra's Workshop, and I had the Displacer Kitten. You know that card?
Oh, it's not ringing a bell.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the gist of that card is when you cast a non-creature spell, you can flicker something. So if you have a mana rock in play, every time you cast a spell, you sort of get a refund. Like you have a Basalt Monolith, you get 3 colorless mana back every time you cast a spell.
Sounds pretty broken if you can draw enough cards to support it.
Oh, and actually, if you need to solve I was Christopher, who owned the other Power Cube, was watching me, and I had sort of worked my way into what is apparently sort of a vintage deck using Coveted Jewel, which is the 6 mana artifact, taps to add 3 mana of any one color, kind of like Basalt, but colorful mana, which is good.
And you like draw 3 cards. Yeah.
Enters, draw 3 cards. Yeah.
that is busted with a blink effect.
Yeah. If you have kind of just enough spells, you can kind of go through your deck. I think the shout out for locking Brandon out in that first game was a card that Brandon did not believe could have ever been in Vintage Cube. I don't know if you have even remember the card God Pharaoh's Statue. This was like an uncommon from War of the Spark. It's a 6 mana artifact, so why are you playing this in Vintage Cube? Spells your opponents cast cost 2 more to cast. So
I've locked people out of games with that card before.
Very rude of me to do that.
I think I had that in a sometimes we end up playing Two-Headed Giant if we have 4 people show up for a night. And we've done like 4 Two-Headed Giant sealed Power Cube before, and I'm pretty sure I've wrecked the other team with that card.
I can believe it. All right, you already had that in your back pocket. You were already ready for the God Pharaoh statue meta.
Yeah. So did you each do a different cube, or did you both draft from the same cube?
It was a different cube. So Brandon drafted his, and I drafted Christopher's.
That's interesting because I feel like Christopher's cube is maybe slightly more juiced than Brandon's is. But Christopher is also, he really curates a lot of interesting and fun choices, like the God Pharaoh.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I guess I could see that maybe Brandon's is slightly more of an optimized traditional vintage cube, plus his is smaller, right?
I think that's true. Yeah.
So you're going to get more power and more of the ultra juicy things per pack.
Yeah. A little bit of the chaff is cut out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could probably play this out of 1 cube. I'd have to do the math. We didn't feel like doing the math and we had 2 cubes. So I just started piling. It was very entertaining, I would say, to have 18 piles straight across on a dinner table and then just put 1 card in each of them and then another card in each of them and another until I had 18 packs of whatever it was, 15 or 16.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'd love to get an opportunity to do that, but it sounds like that's kind of a 2-person format to be really difficult to do as a large group.
Yeah, I guess you could do like if you had a cube, you could divide it into 4 pieces, and then instead of like full size packs, you could do like 10 card packs or something like that.
Oh yeah.
and then you could do, the best 2 cards out of 10 different packs, or best 3 cards. I'm not sure what the math would be, but
That sounds fun. I think maybe next time we do Power Cube and we have 4 people, we can just split the cube into quarters and
yeah.
do Supreme Draft. I like that.
Can we brainstorm like a funny name for like what's Supreme, like slightly less than Supreme, but still? Is there a funny
Ah,
different name? We'll have to work on that one.
yeah, that sounds fun.
All right, our next actual draft, if I have this right, and you were playing some Slay the Spire. Did you kind of like weave that in between events? Was that kind of fun to like just play like an hour here and there?
Yeah, it was great. There was 4 of us playing it, and it was fun to just pop over there and play it between Magic events. I think we finished like 2 acts one night, and then the third act the next
Mm.
morning. And it was also nice. Those of us that were playing it were the more early rising crew. And so
Oh,
while everybody else was still kind of milling and waking up, we finished our Slay the Spire game before the first draft on Saturday.
you'd give that board game 2 thumbs up, right? You're pretty high.
Oh, I am a huge Slay the Spire fan. I have logged an ungodly number of hours on the video game, and the board game delivers pretty much just as much as the video game does, except you're playing with friends, which
Mm.
is a lovely added bonus.
Yeah, it seemed like when I was watching a video on it or something that they really pulled down the complexity of a lot of the cards to make sure that like your basic actions aren't too complicated. Because you got 4 people playing, you got to wait for them to finish.
Yeah, I will say I think you can do Ascension to make it more difficult, just like in a video
Mm.
game. But on the basic mode, it was dumbed down enough that it eventually kind of felt like we were face rolling the game,
Ah, okay.
just because we were all experienced and we knew like what kind of decks to build, and we kind of
Mm.
each broke our own character. And so I would have appreciated a little bit more difficulty,
Mhm.
but it was still a lot of fun.
I did see that someone was showing me like the manual, and they had if people have played Slay the Spire, they like ascensions are sort of you complete the game and then you can do Ascension 1, which does Ascension 1 have the junk card? What I don't remember what things get added when. Or certain monsters are stronger, or certain bosses are stronger. Shops cost more
Yeah.
money, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, each level up just makes a single aspect of the game slightly harder. And
Yeah.
as those aspects pile up, so in the
Yeah.
video game, I know it goes to 20. And once you're playing on Ascension 20, like
Hmm.
the game
Hmm.
is massively more difficult than it is
Hmm.
on Ascension 0. And I haven't experienced it on a board game, so I can't speak to it, but I think it
Yeah.
plays pretty much the same.
It also had like unlocks, which I thought was kind of funny. That's a part of the video game as well, where you play for a while and then after the run you unlock some new things for that character, and then that'll show up in future runs.
Exactly. Yeah, totally
Yeah.
mirroring the video game on that. And I think we finished unlocking all the things at the end of our run. So next time we play that one, we'll have all of the cards
Hmm.
available to us.
All right, and our next thing, we talked a little bit about this before, but I want to dive into it. It's the gold cube. So this is our
Uh,
friend Marcus.
oh, what a lovely experience that was.
So I
It's
think is maybe not every card is gold in the cube. I think there are some hybrid cards, and then there are like artifacts that reference multicolor cards. But for the most part, 90+% of the cards are gold. They are more than one color.
Yeah, I'd say 95 plus
Hmm.
probably. It was almost all gold and a lot of reading.
Yeah, in addition to being sort of a gold cube, it's also sort of a look at all these crazy gold cards that exist cube. Cards that you maybe have read once ever 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's kind of it evokes for me that back in the day, the feel that EDH had, which was really
Mm.
like, oh my gosh, I can play all of these cards that I didn't used to be able to play.
Mhm.
Yeah, so much fun to play all these throwback cards, or like, oh, I saw that in a draft once, but I never got to play it, or I saw a spoiler for that and it looked cool, but then I never touched the card.
Kind of like you were saying with Alara earlier, there are a lot of these like 2 drops floating around. But then I think the side that I was taking was like, I'm gonna have minimal 2 drops and I'm just gonna play all the 5 mana 2-for-1s.
Mhm.
Which, I had middling success with. Maybe that wasn't the best strat.
Yeah, it's a format that is proving exceptionally hard to balance for
Hmm.
Marcus. And I love that he is continuing to work at it because it's a ton of fun to play. And
Yeah.
balancing just mana fixing is a huge
Hmm.
thing. I still feel like the decks that kind of get off to an early lead are the ones that tend to win. And so
Hmm.
it kind of displaces a lot of that big gold fun that you really want to be having. It kind of, to me, also evokes, if you ever played the format Type 4,
Yeah.
it kind of feels like a little bit of Type 4-ness to it in that you just, these big, random, powerful cards. The problem is, though, that if somebody gets early ramp and fixing on board and can drop a handful of powerful early creatures, the game can end before you start casting your 5 drops.
I have started to feel in that format that ramp is specifically the powerful thing to do.
Yeah, the signets.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the signets are where it's at. Like
yeah, yeah.
that's my issue with the format as it stands right now is it's seeded with the signets and lands, the like, really, really fixing lands that he put into it.
Hmm.
And those are essentially to me must drafts.
Yeah,
The gold signet is the most powerful card in the set.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then those lands, grabbing those is also incredibly important because I have found my best success, and I think I've done pretty well with the set every time we've drafted
Hmm.
it,
Hmm.
is that you have to play 5 colors because it doesn't like trying to pigeonhole yourself into a certain number of colors means you are ignoring 3/4 of the packs that are going around.
Mm. Yeah. So there are a couple custom cards in that set. We talked about these signets and lands. There aren't the regular guild signets. Instead, they're sort of these combo signets that basically have every signet ability, all 10, like pay a colorless, get any two colors you want, any two colors you want.
Yeah, they're amazing for fixing.
Yeah, yeah. And then you get, I think, 5 tri lands at the end, guaranteed.
Yeah, and they're like ultimate trilands too. They're
Mm.
just all 3 types
Mm.
and enter untapped. And so you can search for them with any search land and or search effect. And
Yeah.
so they're really what makes that format go round. So I totally dig the fact that you are kind of given a really good mana base. It's just
Yeah.
the gold signets that are because not everybody gets the same number of them in the draft. So,
Mm.
if I get 4 of them and somebody else only gets one, I feel like
Mm.
it's pretty easy to know who's going to win that game.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I pretty much agree with that. And we were talking with Marcus afterward and some of the rest of us. And one of the questions that still have to answer is like, should mana fixing just be free? Like all your lands always tap for all colors. And then the focus of the cube is just seeing all these cool cards that are all happen to be gold. Or is it more like we want to have some stumbling? We don't always want everyone to have all their colors. Everyone kind of has to play all 5 colors or at least 4. And so we want a little bit of jerkiness so that the aggro decks have a chance to win.
Yeah. Honestly, I would love to give it a try where we just remove all of the fixing and colors from it, and it's
Hmm.
basically just cast whatever the hell you want and have fun with big gold spells. I think that would be a really fun way to try it.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of leaning towards that. Um, I think it's still a novel cube, right? Because the card selection is so unusual in the cube. It's so many different colors, or so many different cards from all kinds of different sets. A lot of these are ancient cards. So there's still plenty of room to express yourself as a, cube builder there. I don't know. I think I like the spotlight on that a little bit more than worrying about having enough mana fixing.
And I think, we're all there just to sling big crazy
Yeah.
spells and kind of that I think would also open you up to try to play maybe a more synergistic deck if you're not
Mm.
um, having to worry about color fixing and also the signets being ramp. And especially, I think I had a bunch of land destruction. So I not only had ramp, but I had mana
Shobi.
disruption against the other person. And so
Mm.
I pretty much steamrolled people in that
Hmm.
format.
Yeah, very funny. Land destruction, take people off the planet. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So that was all on Friday. People will start arriving noon or 1 o'clock. We got 2 drafts in during then. A couple people arrived late, I guess. So that's when we did the gold cube.
Yeah.
And then everyone went to bed, or some people stayed up late, like me, which wasn't a great plan. But then the next morning, starting at like 9:30, we're right back in, and we did a vintage cube.
Yeah, that was Brandon's vintage cube first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggled on that draft a little bit. I ended up drafting Reanimator, which is something I don't normally draft in
Yeah.
Vintage Cube. But it was a lot of fun, and honestly, my deck ended up being a lot better than I expected it was going to be.
Yeah, I remember you absolutely crushed me in the first game, and then I think our bonus games you're also obliterating me too.
Yeah,
Uh,
the deck functioned far more streamlined than I thought it would.
yeah.
With the limited, my problem was I didn't get a lot of selection of reanimation targets.
Hmm. So you had Mere Battlesphere. Do you remember what else you had?
Oh, the green white 7-drop. What was
Oh,
her name?
Torsten.
Torsten, their name,
The
whatever
one that
gender
draws
they
a lot
are.
of cards.
Yeah, the one that draws a lot of cards and makes a bunch of 1/1s when it
Yeah.
gets killed. So it's pretty resistant to
Mm.
removal.
I'm a huge Torsten fan. I have a Torsten commander deck.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm a fan too now after having played it in the Vintage Cube. So
the make 7/1/1s is like okay in commander, but in 1-on-1, it's like, hey, I've got a 7/7. If you dare to kill it, guess what? You just die because I have 7/1/1s and I could just attack you twice and you're dead.
exactly,
Yeah.
it was effective.
I wanted to play some combination of Mardu because I feel like the blue section in Vintage Cube doesn't change quite as often. And I felt like my Vintage Cube knowledge was like kind of out of date. So I thought I'm going to try to either be, black, red, black, white. I ended up being red, white. I ended up being Boros. And it was just as many new cards as I could fit in a deck
Hmm.
because I just wanted to like get some play experience with a bunch of those new cards.
Did you enjoy playing it?
Yeah, I mean, I got annihilated the first game, but after that, I did pretty well. I mean, this sort of traditional like all 1-drops aggro red with, hey, I didn't get enough red cards, let me add in some Boros. This was more
Hmm.
like Boros 2-for-1s, I guess I might say. It was pretty fun. It was pretty different too. Like I couldn't beat anything that went super huge, a super combo, but anyone else who was stuck in kind of the fair zone with me, I had a great
Hmm.
a great shot at beating.
Yeah, I love drafting mono red in Power Cube. It's kind of a go-to easy one. I mean, I love drafting, but it's also kind of fun sometimes to be on a little more autopilot draft, and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to take whatever red burn spell or fast little creature comes around.
We attempted to get a commander game off a little bit after that, but everyone was ready and we just jumped straight back into another draft. And this time we did another Bloomborough. Like as we were saying before, it was kind of fun to just play the same format twice in consecutive days with the same people. Like I feel like a lot of knowledge got generated, like a lot of opinions.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Like I swore that I wouldn't draft blue again, and of course ended up drafting blue a second time.
yeah, that was the funniest thing. Because you played the Otter deck the first time, which has kind of borne out to be maybe the weaker deck in Bloomborough. But first draft, who cares? We got to learn. And so you had multiple times said, "I'm never drafting blue." Everyone else is looking at each other. Blue's awful. Blah 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 blah. So I thought I was being the clever drafter, and I was like, "I'm going to play some blue. This is my time to actually see blue shine because everyone else is swearing off of it." And then both you and the other Tim, you were right next to me, and you were both blue.
Yeah, we had 3 blue drafters in a row.
And I was blue black, and there's another Tim, was also blue black. And so we were right next to each other, splitting the same color pair.
At least I went blue white, which is I think a
Yeah,
reasonable amount different from that deck.
yeah, yeah.
How did your decks turn out? Did you split the power or did you both get decks?
Well, we were different decks. I would say that I was sort of like removal spells and draw cards, like not no synergy, just traditional blue black. Whereas he was like basically rats. So his deck was
Ah,
like the rat deck. He had all the rat cards. He had Threshold. He cared about Threshold. He was filling the graveyard, all that kind of stuff. So we looked at each other, and I had like 8 removal spells or whatever. But I think the maybe the secret of the rat deck is that 1-for-1s are not going to beat them. I don't remember if I won or not, but I don't remember winning, so I think
hmm.
it didn't work out for me. I had Glarb, who's sort of the Sultai frog, like the villain frog. It was fun to kind of splash in for a cool kind of card drawy gold card.
Yeah, I remember. I think I had one game where I had the birds and the mice because I think the deck was split pretty evenly between those two.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got the perfect mix of birds and mice, you
Oh
could
yeah,
just wreck.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think I had one game where I just ran over my opponent. And then I think the subsequent 2 games, I didn't get a good mix and I just got run over. Because when you
yeah.
when you have the stuff that's like, oh, a non-flyer gets this bonus, and you're like, oh, I don't have a
Mm.
non-flyer,
Mm.
so I'm just playing this really crappy 3-drop that's not giving me all of its benefit.
Yeah, the blue white like archetype in general is pretty mild in this set. Like it's never gonna like super synergize and go way over the top with itself. It sort of has to incorporate pieces from the other species, I guess.
Exactly.
I wonder if we could have had like a card. I don't know my biology that well, but like a some sort of blue or white card that is a bird that you can choose when it enters. Do you want it to fly or not fly? And then if it
Hmm.
doesn't fly, maybe it gets vigilance or lifelink or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah, that would actually be a really fun way to make that specific tribe function a lot better. You
Hmm.
should let wizards know that. Maybe they'll go back and fix the set.
Well, I think we'll have they do like a little alchemy bonus thing every time on Arena now. Maybe we can get that in for Arena.
Haha.
Uh, all right, we got a couple more in here. It was just draft after draft. We're kind of going through this list. It's a little bit of a marathon, but hopefully people are getting some inspiration from this.
Yeah. What did we do next?
Well, the next thing we did, we have done an episode on, but I want to talk about it again. And that's the sticker chaos flip cube.
Oh, yeah, sticker cube. Oh, the beauty and the agony and the ecstasy of that cube.
Well, there's kind of two parts to the premise here. One of them is that it is a kind of a commons and uncommons cube at its base, but printed on the back of every card instead of a magic card back is a card from a vintage cube. And these are all custom prints, right? Like they're real magic cards, but they're all custom prints. And then when we started out 2 years ago or whatever, it was just like that commons and uncommons cube. There are a couple mechanics, like at the end of the draft, you get to flip one of your cards and see what's on the other side. And then there are a couple effects in the stickers, which we'll get to, that let you kind of forcibly flip over some cards. Do you have a guess as to like what portion of the cards are flipped over at this point?
I feel like we're approaching maybe 20% of the cards being
Hmm.
flipped
Hmm.
now. I feel like it's getting pretty high. Like you
Yeah,
open
yeah.
a pack and you see a lot of flipped cards.
So you'll have like a piece of power or some famous vintage card in the same pack as Palace Guard, which is this common from one of the core
Ah,
sets. You remember this one? It's 2 and a white for a 1/4 that can block any number of creatures.
oh my goodness. Yeah, that is a huge disparity in that set. And that's even before you start adding in the sticker disparity.
Yeah. So the other half of this cube is as part of the draft, you get a couple sheets of stickers, a total of, I would say, I think 6 stickers. Is that right?
Six, yeah.
And so while you're drafting, you have these 6 stickers in mind that are going to modify up to 6 cards. And what you're trying to do there is like while you're drafting, keep in mind, hey, maybe bias towards those colors, or at least pick a couple cards that could fit some of those qualifications. Because they might say like green creature or spell costing more than 4 or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of limits on what you can put the stickers on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so kind of figuring out like where you're going to put your stickers is part of the fun. But we're at the point now where maybe kind of that same number, maybe 10% of the cards are stickered, something like that.
I think it's even higher than
It's
that,
even higher than that.
honestly. I feel like we're pushing probably again that 20
The
plus percent.
20%. Yeah, that would make sense because you get to flip a couple cards and you get to sticker a couple cards. Yeah, so that's probably right. When you sticker cards, usually what happens is their mana cost goes up a little bit and they gain some ability. Like someone took Midnight Haunting, which is just like a 2 and a white instant that makes 2/1/1 flyers, and said, "Hey, that's going to also cost green, but you can flash it back for that same cost. So you can
Mm.
instead of just 3 mana for 2/1/1s, you get to pay 4 mana twice for 1/1s both times."
Make a whole new
Um,
lingering souls.
yeah. But they don't always add cost. Like some of them will. I think one of the funnier things that you'll see in the cube is it'll say, "Hey, replace all the green mana symbols on this card with black mana symbols,"
Oh
and so you
yeah.
get yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, oh no, total time spiral shifting
Yeah,
of
yeah. Oh, that's a great
the
comparison.
color pie.
Yeah. Or sometimes it'll like just turn it hybrid. So like, oh, this like I'm looking at a lightning helix here. That lightning helix is red and white to deal 3, gain 3. But then there's a sticker on here to replace all red and black mana on a card with red black hybrid. So now this is a lightning helix that you can cast either for Boros or for Orzhov mana.
Yeah, there's so much fun color shifting, and even once the added colors subtracted, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I one that I made last time that people were bringing up this time is I took Time Vault, which is the card that you have to skip a turn, but then you could take an extra turn.
Oh, I had that in my deck this
Oh,
time.
okay. And then what did the sticker do?
Oh, the sticker added white, black hybrid symbols to it and
Hmm.
said on enters the battlefield, destroy target permanent.
Yeah. So you have sort of a Vindicate plus, if you want, a Time Vault.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was a 4 mana Vindicate,
Yeah.
and then I had it was another stickered card. I think it was a small like little mana dork or something that had tap to untap target permanent.
Hmm.
So I had a little combo with that,
Yeah.
which I actually never got off, which made me really sad, but it was in the deck.
And so maybe because there are enough of these stickers, there are enough kind of busted things to find to do. You still have to do like a lot of, I would say, classic drafting where you have to like figure out what colors are going to be open. You have to figure out what cards are actually good. If kind of the modern era of like play boosters and kind of newer boosters is that we're going to flatten out all the commons to be similar power level, here that's back out the window. We've got absolute Fs right next to absolute As in the pack.
Oh yeah.
But those A's might not be in your colors and those Fs might be in your colors. So you got to do some classic drafting there.
Yep. And then, of course, there's one of my favorite cards in the cube, the Phyrexian Mana Baneslayer Angel.
So yeah, 3 mana Baneslayer as long as you're willing to pay for life. Good thing it has lifelink.
Yeah, that card
Yeah.
is so busted. And what
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
other? There was some other, like I think the Phyrexian Mana, go figure, totally
Yeah.
broke a lot of cards.
Yeah. This is one that Gavi brings up too. Vampire Nighthawk, which is 1 black for a 2/3. Flying Death Touch lifelink, just like a solid all around keywordy card. But also now all those black symbols are Phyrexian symbols. So you can have a 1 mana and 4 life for a 2/3 flying Death Touch lifelink. That lifelink, when you put lifelink on a Phyrexian mana card, you're definitely cheating.
Yep. And I think there's a handful of those going around. There's that green one that, which one is it? It gains you a bunch of life when it enters.
Oh yeah. Palaka Worm.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah.
I think I remember because last year I think someone played Palaka Worm in a Rise of the Eldrazi draft, and then also played the Phyrexian Palaka Worm in the sticker draft. So they got to see the difference in the power level of that card depending on which cube you're playing it in.
Honestly, that cube has almost jumped the shark. It's getting so crazy and powerful now,
Mm.
which is still a lot of fun,
Yeah,
but it's getting out there.
yeah.
And it's kind of a legacy cube too. That's the wonderful thing about it is it's just
Yeah.
always changing and evolving, and I love it.
If the draft goes wrong on you, it could be going really wrong because your opponent could have a really raunchy deck. Um,
Yeah,
I,
I mean, even just going wrong, like the problem is it's at the level where there's enough absolutely busted cards in it that it's almost doesn't matter what you draft. It's more of like, okay, well, if I'm facing a busted deck, then I'm just going to lose.
Yeah, you could have done a pretty good job drafting, but someone just happened to open something more insane, which is maybe like why they maybe tried to move to a flatter power level in draft, uh, flatter but more synergistic draft in more recent sets.
Exactly.
So at the end of the draft, you could pick one of the cards, probably in your sideboard, to flip over, right? And so
Oh,
you're
did you flip
flipping.
something good?
Yeah. So the flip that I had Prodigal Pyromancer, which is the like tuna red 1/1 that can tap to deal one to any target, the like red Tim.
Uh-huh.
And I decided to flip that over. So from Prodigal Pyromancer, it flipped into Season Pyromancer. So
Oh,
from Pyromancer to Pyromancer, and Season Pyromancer enters the battlefield, discard your hand, draw 2 cards. It has a bunch of other text on it because it's from Modern Horizons. So you get a bunch of elementals. So it went from like, kind of a classic, but maybe not quite fast enough card into a different Pyromancer that made it into my deck that I actually got to bring in.
yeah. I love that Brandon. I could have sworn when he brought the cube, he's like, oh, yeah, it's totally random what you'll flip into. But you've run into those and you're like, was that
Hmm.
actually random? I don't
Hmm.
think so.
I showed it to him and he lost his mind. So I don't think he did that one on purpose.
Okay.
Uh,
I guess
or,
coincidences do just happen.
or he's acting. I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, it's wonderful and I love it.
Brandon and I were talking about this. Could you ever design a sticker cube that didn't go out of control? The answer I'm starting to feel is no. I don't know how good at game design you'd have to be to have a sticker cube not get super busted.
Exactly. It would have to be, you would have to spend so much time thinking through every sticker and like,
Yeah,
which card could this break?
yeah,
And then redesigning the stickers to make sure it doesn't break or take that card out of the cube. And
yeah, yeah.
the amount of undertaking that would be bonkers. And it's fun to break it.
Yeah, it is very fun to break it. And when you read a card that someone stickered, 4 months ago that you've never seen for the first time, you're like, uh-oh, I'm in
Yeah.
danger.
Yeah.
One of my opponents there's an old card, Necrogenesis, which is black and a green for this enchantment. It's normally kind of too slow. You pay 2 mana, exile a creature card from your graveyard, make a sapperling. Maybe if a game's really grindy, you'll get something out of that. But normally, the power level has risen maybe where you can't play that card anymore in this cube. But it got stickered where it costs 1 extra mana, it costs an extra Selesnya mana, but it has an anthem. Creatures you control get +1/+1.
Oh, yeah.
So now you pay 2 mana to get a bear. And also, all your other creatures are bigger.
Mm. It's so fun. I love seeing the creativity that comes out of it, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
also it's really that same itch that gets scratched by fully custom cubes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One of the fun ones that I had was Crozen Tusker, and the sticker was to add, I think it was just like basic land cycling to it for 1 mana. And
Oh.
so I added a 1 mana basic land cycling. So when you cycled it, you not only got to fetch a basic land with it,
Oh.
but it also, no, it was forest cycling. That's what it was. Forest cycling
Yeah.
for 1.
Okay.
And so you would pay 1 mana, forest cycle, you get a forest, and then the basic land that the Crows and
Mm.
Tusker normally gets.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
became a 1 mana to grab 2 lands from your deck. And
Yeah, yeah.
that one was really, really good.
Crows and Tusker, that's a old card, 7 mana, 5 green green for a 6/5. And the sort of way this is meant to work, so it's a 6/5 for 7 mana. You can't always cast that, but it has regular cycling, not land cycling. 2 and a green, discard the card to draw a card. A common thing we see on big creatures. But this one has one of those cycling clauses. When you cycle Crows and Tusker, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand. So you've added this extra option on there. You could still if you wanted to, 3 mana cycle to just draw a regular card and get a land out of your library. Or what you've done, you get a forest and a basic land.
For 1 mana.
Yeah, 1 colorless mana, draw a forest and a basic land. That's some fixing right there.
Yeah.
You don't even need the green in the first place, do you?
No, I think I honestly wasn't even playing a green deck, and I just put one single forest into my
Oh,
deck just to make that busted card work, and then I could get whatever other
Mm.
land I wanted from it.
So the power and toughness, all that didn't matter to you. You were just playing a 1 mana colorless card that let you draw your singleton forest and the one color you wanted out of your deck at the same time.
Yep, make sure you don't miss any land drops. And then on the off chance that you draw your forest and have 7 mana and nothing else to cast, maybe you cast it as a creature.
I kind of wonder what the space would be for just like a card that fetches up 2 lands but doesn't put them in play. Would that be ever a fun card to play? Should that be showing up places?
I would love that, honestly, especially if it's kind of an inexpensive early play that you can use to just make sure that you're hitting your later drops.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's one of the least feel good parts of Magic is when you get stuck on 3 and you just can never get that 4th land.
Yeah.
And you got these amazing 4-drops in your hand and you're just sitting there, well, I just lost that game because I never drew my 4th mana.
Yeah. And if you want to elect to insulate yourself against that, you could throw some stuff that like gets lands. I love the 1 mana land cyclers. They're some of my favorite cards. I put them in EDH decks, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those.
No, me too. Like, that's one of the things I think Wizards has done really well in some of the recent sets is the dual-faced cards that can either be a land or like the spell or creature or whatever. And I love that idea that it just makes it, you lose less games to Mana Screw or Flood for that matter.
Yeah, and then you rip the like 6 mana land cycler at the end of the game and you're like, I actually kind of like this. Yeah, I'll just cast it. 6 mana 5/5 with trample. Who cares? Love it.
Exactly.
I don't know why, but I've had just like a crazy amount of luck in that sticker cube. And this time around, I opened Ragavan as my first card. So kind of like a mixed power level cube, opening like maybe the strongest 1-drop you could open in limited. That was enjoyable.
I got crushed in that cube, just utterly crushed.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was sad.
The end of the night to it. You're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Like you said, this is mostly a group that's like trying to do new things and have fun. They're not like super nickel and dime spiky, but we do kind of like to win. And one of the prizes in this cube is if you go undefeated, you get to sign one of the cards. And then if you, in a future draft, if you manage to draft one of your signed cards, it costs 1 colorless mana less, one generic less. This is maybe for the listeners. What's the strategy? What should you sign? If you sign a really bad card and make it a little better, it's probably going to wheel. People are not going to steal it from you. But one time I signed a demonic tutor. That was a mistake because no one's ever going to pass that anyhow. So unless I get lucky, I'll never see that card again in my signature. You know, I don't get to play that card.
Yeah, you seem to get the Vampire Interloper pretty regularly, right?
I'm basically black every time we play that cube because Vampire Interloper, it's a card that I have some fondness for anyhow, so it's a joy to sign. But it's a colorless and a black for a 2/1 flyer that can't block. So 2 mana, 2/1 flyer, you know, that's kind of an okay. It's like a good common. But when you make it 1 mana, now you got like a clock going because it's hard to get those 1-drops. You're getting 6, 8, 10 damage out of that guy. People don't want to kill it because it's only like a 2/1. Yeah, I've had a lot of success with that, buddy.
Yeah, that's the kind of card that I need to make sure I just draft when you're at the table and I don't let it get back to you. Just take one for the team.
Yeah.
Or just let you have it and know that you're getting a lot of joy from it.
Yeah. I don't mind if people take it, but it's I don't know. I think that's one of the things that I would maybe ramp up a little bit more in the cube. Maybe have everyone sign a card at the end. So there are more, because there are only like 6 signed cards total in the whole cube. If that number was more like there are 30 signed cards, that might be a little more fun.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
This time around, I signed Bone Crusher Giant, which is
that's
like stomp on one side and the giant on the other. Yeah.
Does it reduce both the adventure and the creature?
Yeah, according to Brandon, that's how it's going to work because it just reduces the mana cost on the card. So yeah.
Oh, that is busted.
I got a shock adventure and then just like a 2-bit of 4/3.
Now you're going to be playing Rakdos every time.
Yeah. I feel like that one's like maybe slightly past the line of, you know, not that reliable, the wheel. I'm trying to figure out what the perfect card is to sign to make better.
Yeah, I think your Vampire Interloper was just about the perfect card to sign.
You actually want to pick a common to sign. Okay, yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
something you know you're probably going to get, but makes
Mm.
it kind of busted, but only for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Going from 2 to 1, maybe that's the sweet spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next morning, bright and early, we're doing another vintage cube. This was Christopher's vintage cube, which is pretty actively curated. He's always swapping cards in and out every set.
Yeah, love how much it changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was kind of just Sultai okay stuff. I did get to do a thing in Vintage Cube that I thought about, which is the new Surveil lands. So, the fetchable Surveil lands, this is like a big part of modern and stuff now, like having a couple of those so you can fetch and, Surveil on turn 1, even, with a fetch land. What I got to do is Surveil, put a big bomb in my graveyard, and then reanimate it turn 2. Oh, beautiful. That was a great feeling.
Yeah. I can't remember. What did I do in that set? There's so much drafting.
Yeah.
And I got home and jumped right back into real life here. And
Yeah, yeah.
I can remember so much of Magic Camp, but I'm drawing a blank on what
Hmm.
I drafted for that one.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember playing against Gavi, who had drafted Sultai as well, but on turn 5 managed to spend 30 mana. We counted. I don't know, a true power cube experience, I guess.
Wow. Yeah.
Like fetching a Gaia's Cradle into play somehow, while after spraying out a bunch of creatures, tapping that, untapping it somehow. Oh, it was beautiful.
That is wonderful.
And then last up, we did my Meriden Cube, which is sort of like a best of the first 2 Meriden blocks. A lot of energy, artifact synergy. You were Affinity in that? Is that right?
Yeah, I was Affinity, and my deck absolutely wrecked. It was. I don't even think I had any close games. I think I just steamrolled everybody.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of my favorite cards in that is the it's like Affinity for Islands. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a flyer, I
Yeah, it's
think.
like the Spire
Yeah.
something or other. The like 2/4 flyer.
Yeah, yeah. The 2/4 flyer, Spire Golem. It's 6 mana, 2/4 flyer. No one else is taking this from you.
Yeah.
And as Affinity for Islands. For you, that's probably like 0, 1, 2, 3 mana for a 2/4 flyer.
Yeah, it was 3 mana most of the time. I dropped that on turn 3 pretty reliably.
Yeah, yeah. This isn't quite down to like the power level of actual Meriden draft, but it's a big drop down from Vintage or Sticker Cube or anything else like that. So
Oh
a
yeah.
fast flyer backed up with some some more aggression, some equipment, stuff like that. That's a way to win.
Well, and that flyer turning on more of your affinity for
Yeah,
artifacts. So
yeah, yeah.
just that wouldn't be that backbreaking, but the
Mm-hmm.
fact that everything in that deck builds up on everything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, the was it like Vidalcan Setark, I think, the blue
Oh
one
yeah.
drop that taps when you have Metalcraft. It taps something else when you have Metalcraft. That was the MVP of that deck.
Oh, okay.
I had 3 of those and could effectively keep my opponents controlled the entire time with those.
Mm.
And then I'm dropping affinity, so my hand is just dropping so fast in that
Mm.
deck. And I would
Yeah.
have a board full of maybe just a bunch of 2/2s or a couple flyers or whatever, but it was so
Mm-hmm.
backbreaking when I could tap their 1 or 2 blockers and just
Yeah,
attack
yeah.
in with. And
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was it
ran
was
me over.
really hard to compete against. Yeah.
I had well, in I think pack 3, maybe it wasn't me, but someone passed me Beacon of Creation, which is in the cube.
I passed that to you.
And I saw it and I was like, well, I am not at all set up to cast this spell, but if it comes around, I'll play it. If it wheels, I'll play it. And it did, so I played it. I had to cut probably 8 cards that were very powerful out of my deck so I could play a lot of forests. Beacon of Creation, if you guys have forgotten somehow, listening to the show, that's okay. This is kind of an obscure card. Create a 1/1 green insect creature token for each forest you control, then shuffle it back into your library. So you have to play kind of all forests, or close to all forests, and you kind of want a lot of card draw somehow. So you need like some artifacty card draw, because you not only need to, when you cast this the first time, you get 3 or 4 insects. In order to really win a game, you got to get to the second one. You gotta get back to the beacon And that's when you make, 9, and that's when you win.
Were you already drafting green when you pulled that? Just not fully green?
No, one of the kind of aspects of the cube is that it's like about half colorless. So I try to like stay open, and I'm trying to play like artifacts plus a color, and I was artifacts plus white, but I kind of shed that and just like grabbed some green cards. When I saw that card, I made that pledge. If I get it on the wheel, I just took a couple green cards. Like there's a green creature, when he dies, you ramp in growth and some stuff like that. So those are my green cards.
Hmm.
In that same spirit, though, I managed to live the Beacon of Creation spirit with a second card called Mirror Incubator, and this one was more successful. And I could actually give the thumbs up in this cube to this card. This is 6 mana. Don't get too excited, I guess. 6
Hmm.
mana for an artifact that does nothing, but if you pay 6 more mana and sacrifice it, search your library for any number of artifact cards, exile them, then create that many 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature tokens. Then shuffle.
Yeah, you got that off against me in like a game 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah. It's pretty reasonable for a deck that, not even a hardcore deck, but just a deck angled toward this, to exile like at least a dozen artifacts out of your deck, if not more.
Hmm.
I think I did like 17 or something.
It was a
17
lot.
1/1s, that's a way to win. It cost me 12 mana, but yeah, so that was merited, and that was the end of our events.
Yeah, then we cleaned up and packed up and went home.
Yep. Kind of wrapping up here, I wanted to have a little bit of time at the end to kind of speculate on some things that we could do for next time. Maybe I like to try to put a cube together if I can. I didn't manage to do it this time around, but we've done like what was it? Commander Tribal Cube one time, and I thought that was pretty fun.
Hmm.
But what are we going to do here for this Vanguard thing? How do we integrate Vanguard? What are we going to try to do?
Oh my, I love your idea of the Dominaria style plane, where you draft the Vanguard cards maybe before the cube draft,
Mm,
and so you get to know what your options are going to be for building your deck. And I
mm.
think you just kind of have to embrace the inherent brokenness of that style of play, and just say
Yeah,
we're going to have a lot of fun playing with Vanguard cards, and somebody's going to get the nuts, and somebody else is going to get the not nuts. And
yeah.
some of those cards are some of them are so powerful, and some of them are so
Yeah,
awful.
yeah.
Um, but and then like you were talking about trying to integrate the plane chase into it, and I have other people in the group are not necessarily have the same love for this, but I
Mm.
love mixing random things like that of Vanguard and Plane Chase. I think one time we tried to do Vanguard, Plane Chase, and Arch Enemy all in one,
Oh,
and I mean it's just supreme chaos,
yeah.
that's probably too much. But doing Vanguard and Plane Chase, I would be totally on board with doing that.
Yeah, I think I want to do something where the cube itself, like the actual magic cards you're playing with, uh, aren't maybe on that commander level, aren't on that vintage cube level. They're a little, more mellow, kind of like I do for my set cubes, where there's a
Hmm.
lot of commons floating around, maybe synergistic commons, but something like that, so that the Vanguard cards and the plane cards are actually like really present. Um, I think part of the original thought behind the plane chase cards is that you would bring your chunk of planes, I would bring my planes, and then we'd sort of like have them mixed together. But a portion of them would be really synergistic for me. A portion of them would be cards that like are what my deck wants to do.
Yeah.
I think that's also kind of like a fun draft thing potentially, where you're either drafting planes or, I'm just making this up, but you get 10 planes and then you edit it down to the 5 that fit you better, something like that.
Yeah, I think if we drafted Vanguard cards and then we maybe draft our decks and then we draft the playing cards at the
Hmm.
end,
Yeah.
that could be a fun like 3-part thing,
Yeah.
and would work really well. And like if you wanted to do a set cube, you could do like Dominaria
Hmm.
set cube
Yeah.
style to go with that, and maybe mix in. It wouldn't have to stay just Dominaria. You could
No.
even mix in like some of the other core set type things into it, so it could
Hmm.
have a little bit more of a vanilla, less powerful, because Dominaria, I seem to remember, was a relatively powerful set.
Hmm.
So you could probably downplay it just a little bit by mixing in some other stuff.
Yeah, I'm even thinking like some invasion-y sort of things. I think that's where a lot of the
Oh yeah.
Dominaria characters became extra famous, and that's like some gold cards and some kind of classic old feeling cards. Yeah, maybe something in that range.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun and something that really allows the Vanguard and the Plane Chase cards to really shine.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's where, like, at least I got a negative impression of Plane Chase was playing it with commander decks because, like, I'm already sort of in a state of overload because that's naturally where commander games head.
Yeah,
And then to have like planes just like, I can't really read the plane because it's, kind of regular sized text but far away from me. I've learned to appreciate it more, but I think where it gave me the bad impression is when it's already a complex format and then you're adding something more complex on top of it.
exactly. I would love to play some Plane Chases duels where
Hmm.
you really
Oh,
get,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, you really get that like back and forth of like, no, my plane. Oh no, now
Yeah.
it's your plane. No, now it's my plane.
Yeah.
Whereas when we do it, we've, thrown that in with Commander so many times, but it's just a big, huge stack of planes and it's just
Yeah.
complete chaos
Yeah.
randomness.
Yeah. Here's an idea that we had that Christopher and I were talking through that. Let me try it on you as well. I kind of like now when I'm designing a cube to throw in at least some custom cards, like maybe 5 or 10%, maybe not a lot, but I like to get something new in there. And one of the things I was thinking was, what could we do to change up how you plane shift, how you planeswalk and plane chase, so that it's not just the die, but maybe some other mechanic, like maybe because what's our goal? Each player is going to change the plane that you're on. What would you say, like 1 to 2 times a game? Is that where would you put that?
Hmm. I guess it really is going to depend on the level of power of getting your own plane versus the power of a card.
Hmm.
Like if you're playing, vintage cube level decks, you're probably not caring too much about the
Oh yeah.
planes. But
Okay.
if you're playing kind of like, weaker core set
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
type, the planes are probably going to matter a lot more to you. And
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
those chaos effects and other things are going to be a better investment in mana than
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
casting another 2/2.
Yeah, and maybe if we're not playing commander decks, the amount of mana that we have like also goes down a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like a conspiracy deck. That deck does not have access to a ton of mana, and so rolling the die in conspiracy would be kind of prohibitive. But what if there was
Yeah.
some way, either like basically like you could draft a card that is like a 3 mana rock that you can also sacrifice to planeswalk,
Hmm. I like that.
so that like there's room to change the planes, and you don't have control over what plane you're going to, but every player gets at least like one time during the game, probably, where they'll probably have the opportunity to just say, time for a new plane.
No, I like that because it does get frustrating when you just roll blanks over and over and over again in
Yeah,
plane
yeah.
chase.
We got enamored with the idea of a thing like the Monarch called the planar portal, and that's what we're fighting over. That's why we have a 4 player
Hmm.
game, is that we're hitting each other to take control of this portal. I don't know what that portal does. We didn't quite hash that out, but something in that range would put us in the conspiracy zone, a reason to attack each other, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What if it just says the owner of the planar portal may roll the planar die for free once per turn?
Hmm. Yeah, or maybe like you can't roll the planar die naturally. Like that's just you don't have to worry about that for the first couple turns. Because I think that's where planes can be kind of annoying. Is like someone rolls the like rampant growth ramp thing on turn one and like absolutely builds up, and then
Oh
by the
yeah.
time it's your turn, nothing happens. So maybe it's like a turn or two. There's no planes yet. People are starting their game, and then the planar portal's in play, and then people are fighting over the ability if they want to. If they're incentivized to change the plane, if they think there's some good planes out there, hey, let me get that planar portal. That gives me a lot of access to try to change the plane.
Yeah, like maybe if you deal combat damage to an opponent, you can take control of it from like a neutral like
Oh yeah.
spot, and then once you use it, it goes back to the neutral spot.
Hmm.
And somebody has to deal damage to an opponent to get it back again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. So there's some reason to take it from your opponents. There's some reason to take it from the neutral spot. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm liking this. We're cooking.
Yeah.
I think the best thing is we put this episode up and then we just harvest all the ideas from the internet as well. That's
Oh my gosh, that's what the internet is good for.
yeah, absolutely. My goal for everybody is like we don't start with the ability to roll the plane or die. How do we introduce the ability to change planes? That's the thing that I want. I want info on. I want to figure out.
Plane chase without the plane or die. I'm in love. Like maybe just like, or you could modify if you don't get the ability to do it right off, you could make a different plane or die that has more action happening, but
Oh
you're
yeah.
much more limited on when and how often you can do it.
Yeah, when you have the planar portal, you're allowed to roll this die, and this die isn't blank on 4 of the sides. It actually has stuff on all sides. Like maybe basic things could be, one side gains you some life, one side draws you a card, one side does something else to reflect, hey, I control this portal and I'm, trading with people on the other side. And
Hmm.
sometimes that die changes the plane.
Yeah, I'm loving this.
Yeah, alrighty. All right. We're kind of running low on time here for our discussion here, but I am interested in if other people have run these kinds of events, what they've done, kind of sharing kind of ideas for that. I think one thing we didn't really get to is like what to do in like a draft. You're trying to schedule these drafts. What do we do during the downtime between games? One game is taking a while, everyone else is done. Do we try to rotate around them? What do we do? So if people have kind of cracked that kind of problem, I'm interested in that. Or maybe that's just something we could talk about next year after Magic Camp.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, I have just a couple of reminders to get to. One of those is our monthly design challenge. This time around, it's called for August, it's 8 legs a week. You have to design a card that makes an 8/8 octopus creature token. Whatever your card does, it's got to be able to make that token. You got 2 bonus points. Yeah, you getting kind of interested in this?
Well, you brought up 8/8s earlier in the episode, and
Yeah.
for some reason I thought we were going to reference the massive amount of fusion elementals that are in the gold
Oh.
cube.
Okay.
So that's where my brain went, and then I totally
Okay.
glossed over it once we got there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what is there? There's like 8 fusion elementals in that cube, and like there was so
Yeah.
many of those things running around. We had one person have what, 4 of them in play
4
at
in
one.
play. Yeah.
Like that was mind blowing. So of course you mentioned 8/8 octopus, and I'm like, okay, fusion elemental, like octopus. So it'd be like the octopus elemental. I don't know.
Octopus fusion mage, and the fusion mage costs a bunch of different colors but can pump out octopus. Why are they octopus? I don't know.
Yeah, because creativity and fun.
Yeah. We got a couple bonus points if you need some more inspiration there. These are all Beatles themed, so I want to hold your hand.
Aha.
Use the word hand on the card somewhere. There are many cards that use the word hand. You could return something to hand. You could count the number of cards in hand. Everything. Make some look at an opponent's hand, something like that. And then we got the octopus's garden in the sea. This card can somehow make more than one of these octopus tokens, so it has some capability to make more than one token. It doesn't have to be right away. It could take some time. It could be a flashback. It could be something else. But give us a way to make multiple 8/8 creature tokens. And that'll be due at the end of the month, August 30th. And that's it for our podcast for the week. Jump on the Discord. That's where all the community is. That's where all the action is. Thanks again, Shobi, for coming on. It was so great to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tim. This was a hell of a lot of fun.
Do you have anything you want to tell people about? Anything you want to plug?
Well, if anybody's in Portland at the end of the month, we have our Princess Bride Burlesque show that we're doing at the Funhouse Lounge, August 30, 31st, and September 1st.
Oh, okay. Very cool. We'll get a link to that in the show notes. If you need to reach me, you can find me at Tim F. Riley on the Discord. And then, yeah, go see Shobi at the show.
Thanks, Tim.
And thanks everybody for listening.